Hello and welcome to my tutorial on Java. This is going to be a tutorial for absolute beginners. I'm not going to assume you know really anything about coding, and yeah, we're just gonna go and learn it and make a program. So this video, I'm just gonna try to explain how to get the most basic program running, because in Java everything is very it may seem very complex, very daunting when you're just starting out and you see all these words and you have no idea what any of them mean, right? So first of all, what you're gonna need is Java. Like, to run Java code, you're gonna need Java, right? So just open your terminal. I'm gonna assume you're on Windows. So in Windows you can just go down to your start menu and find the terminal. Find basically anything where you can type in like a command, and then just type in Java -version, and then you should see which version of Java you're running. And if you don't see this, you don't have to see exactly this, right? This is just my particular version that I've installed, but you should see something at least. If you don't see that, go install Java. You're gonna need it to run Java code. If you do see it, we're ready to build some Java code. So find yourself an editor, right? This can be anything. You can write it in Notepad, you can write it in, I don't know, Google Docs, whatever, it doesn't matter. Find yourself an editor. I use this called VS Code. It's probably the most popular code editor there is. But for Java specifically, I think IntelliJ has some like a very nice Java specific one, if you fancy using that one. Find one, and yeah, basically what we're gonna do is in our code editor, or wherever you want, you're gonna create a new file. Let's call this program.java, and already Java is gonna force us to do something. Java is a very particular programming language. It really wants you to do certain things. So when you create a Java file, use this capital at the beginning. You have to use this capital at the beginning. So my code editor, I've set it up so it like knows everything about Java, but likely you're going to be greeted with an empty file. That's okay. Just clear the file and we're going to start writing down some Java code. So first things first, we got to talk about classes, right? So a class is a definition of something in your program. So what I like to do is I like to think about games, right? So anything that can do something is a class. So a player is a class because it can walk around, it can do something, it can shoot, right? An enemy is a class, right? Because it can like try to like hunt you or something. A car is a class because you can drive it. Stuff like that, right? Like any entity, anything that has some behavior or does something, that is a class, right? So we want to define these things. So if you're making a game, you would define the class player, you would define the class enemy, and that definition you can then use to actually instantiate a player, right? You can actually create a player from the definition, right? So you, for example, if you have an enemy, you could define the class enemy and then make multiple enemies of them, right? I'm saying this to kind of highlight the definition between definition and instantiation, or like creating, right? So yeah, just for tutorial's sake, let's create a definition of a dog. This is how I would do it, right? You type class, which means we're going to define an entity, we're going to define something with behavior, and we're going to name it dog. So this dog can do stuff, right? So that's how you define something in your program. But you're also going to want to define what the thing can do. So for example, my dog can bark, so I need to define the behavior of barking, right, on this dog. And the way we do that is via these things called methods, right? And you may be familiar with functions from Python. They're exactly the same thing. A class definition of a thing holds a list of methods, which are behaviors of that thing. So I'm going to use the example of a calculator. So we define a calculator, and then within these curly braces, we're going to define what behaviors the calculator has. So one of these is summing two numbers, for example. So we're going to define the method sum. Let's actually spell it correctly. So we expect this calculator to be able to sum, right? And for a behavior, we have to think about it in terms of what do we give it and what do we expect back from this this method or this function, right? So sum, to sum something, we have to give it a number a number b, and remember this int here, it stands for integer, and integer is a whole number, right? So just read this as number. So we expect a number a number b, it's going to be passed into sum, and we're going to expect back another integer. That's how you have to read this, right? So again, the definition of a calculator, like the thing calculator, it can sum a number a number b, and we expect back another number, right? And then again, within these curly braces, we're going to define how to actually run this method, right? So at some point, we're going to enter this method, and then what's going to do? We're going to return a plus b. So we give it a number a, we give the number b, it's going to give us back via the return word, keyword, it's going to give us back the sum of a and b. And this has to match up with this, right? Because this here, it's called the function signature. It tells us what it expects, and it tells us what we can expect back from it, what it can return to us, right? So that's what this means here. So now we have defined an entity with a behavior, and we know exactly what it's going to do. Right, so this is called a class definition. Okay, and now we got to talk about another thing. Not every method, right? Not every one of these behaviors actually returns something, right? I mean, if you think about our dog from before, we can have a bark method, but bark's not going to give us back a number, right? We're not going to write integer bark because it's not going to give us anything. So the way to do this in Java is by writing void. So what a void means, it literally means nothing, right? So we're saying here, okay, we have the behavior bark on a dog. We're going to give it nothing, right? Because like it's not going to need anything from me to bark, right? And I'm not going to expect anything when it barks. I don't expect a number back, right? I expect nothing back, and that's why I write a void. I tell it to bark, and it's just going to do it. It's not going to tell me like, oh, I succeeded in barking, or like, oh, here's five barks or whatever. No, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to give me anything back, right? That's why we label it a void. So this is valid. Again, so think about this. We define the entity dog with the behavior bark, which takes nothing and gives nothing. Easy, right? Now we got to talk about instance data. So imagine you have multiple dogs, and every dog, you want to do something with for example, their age. Right? I'm just saying something, but every dog has a different age, and we can write this. So what this means right here, if you put this in a class, it means that every dog, right, has the property age, which is a number. That's all this means, right? So if you create multiple dogs, every one of those dogs is going to have their own age, right? And when I say every one of those dogs, we call those the instances of the class dog, and this is the instance data. So right, so every dog has their own age. That's it. That's all this means. And now we can make a distinction between two kinds of methods. There are instance methods and there are static methods. And instance methods, they make use of instance data. So for example, if I define a behavior of doubling my age, right? So say I define a behavior double my age. What's it going to give back to us? Well, it's going to give back age times 2. Right, so what this method does is it's not going to receive anything from me. It doesn't receive anything from me, right? Like this space here between brackets is empty, but it uses data based on which specific dog you ask it to, right? Because every dog has their own age. So this method, right, like what it gives back highly depends on which dog I make like this behavior do, right? So that's why this is called an instance method. There's also static methods. And static methods, they don't depend on which dog you make it do, right? So for example, if I say this is a static int, it's going to say like, oh, I can't do that, right? Because this right here is going to depend on which dog you ask it to do. But if we just return 2, it doesn't matter which dog you ask it, right? Because it's not using any specific dog's property. So this is called a static method. And yeah, so that's basically what a static method is. One more thing before we can actually create a program, we need to talk about access modifiers. So by default, when you write class, this thing right here is not visible to every file you create in your program. So lots of like really big Java programs, they consist of so many files, right? And a lot of, you don't want to like clutter every file with every class, right? So think about it like this. If you're writing code, say we're back in the game, right? And say we're writing code for vehicles, well, they're not going to need to know anything about, for example, guns, right? Like they're two totally different things. So what we kind of want to do is we want to control the visibility of these classes. So my class vehicle, it should not be able to like store a gun, right? It shouldn't be able to do that. That's this kind of philosophy of like really big Java projects, where you kind of want to make sure that code only stays within their own little sphere, and this really helps like make big Java projects manageable, right? Because if you had access to everything in your whole program at every time, then it's going to be one giant mess. You don't know which classes are which. You probably have a lot of duplicate names. It's not going to go well, right? So by default, this is private. That means this dog is only visible to other classes in the same, well, package, but let's call it file for now. So this dog is only going to be visible to other things in the same file, but not to things in other files, right? And that really helps keep those other files clean, right? They're not going to be cluttered by everything in this one, right? But to make things public, to make things visible to everyone, you just type public before it. That's it. That's really it. So now we can actually start by making a working Java program. So we're going to define our program, right? It's going to be a thing that can run. A program is a thing that can run. So in our heads, we need to think that's a class program with a method run, right? So let's actually make that. So we have a class program, and we have a method run. This is what we should think, right? Like classes and methods. We have a program, it can run. Now we need to do all the other plumbing right around it. So what is run going to give us? Nothing, right? I don't expect anything back from run. I just tell it to run. I can't really do anything with it. So that's why I type void. Because like you can return stuff all you want, but we're not going to be able to do anything with it. So void. Second thing is, it's not going to be dependent on any specific instance of program. It's going to be one program, right? There's not going to be like different ages per program, right? Or like just some different data per program. No, there's just one. So we label it static. It's not going to be dependent on which program you ask it, because there's only one. So that's why it's static void. We want this method to be visible to everyone. And why we do this is because when we run the program, right, by typing this. This Java here needs to be able to find this method. And for that, the method needs to be visible to everyone. That's why I write public. So it's visible to everyone. It doesn't use like specific data from the program because there is none. And we don't expect anything back. And then what we're gonna give it is we're gonna give it a list of text named args. Okay, so this needs a little bit of explaining, but when you type Java program.java, right, this is the command to run program.java. You can type anything you want after this, right? And whatever you type after it, so these are three like pieces of text, right, separated by space. These are three pieces of text. Java is going to put them in a list of text, and a string here is basically just a piece of text, right? So this syntax here, these two square braces, it means it's just a list, right? So this string list is just gonna hold these three pieces of text. That's it, and we call them the arguments of the program. And this is done so you can actually like change the behavior of your program based on what you give it, right? So I'll show later like what it can do. But that's that. It's not going to do anything because Java by default expects the method to be called main. So we do that. And this we can run. See, there's no errors. Just going to start and then immediately stop because we didn't specify any behavior between these brackets. We can give it some behavior. We can say system.out.println hello. Remember the semicolon to like properly give the command, and now it will say hello when you type it out. So let me clarify what I did here. System.out is this thing right here, right? So this little output that I have down here in my terminal, this is called system.out, and we tell it to print a line hello, and that's exactly what's happening here. It's going to tell this output to print a line hello. And that's it. That's it, really. What we can also do is we can say like, okay, this list of args, get the first element of it. Okay, and now this should run, let's see, Java program.java, and then test. And it will print whatever I give it, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. It will print 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, let's go over it one more time. We have a definition of a thing that can do something. We have a program, and this program can be run by Java, right? And that's what we call the method main. Now this method needs to be visible by everyone, right? It needs to be visible to this little Java right here to be able to actually like run the program. We mark it static because it's not using any instance data. We don't have like, we're gonna write the lifetime of the program and then use the lifetime and make, no, we don't, right? That's why we label it static. Doesn't use any specific data. We're not expecting anything back from this method, so we label it void. It's not gonna give us a number. It's not gonna give us some text. It's not gonna give us back anything because this function here is called by Java, and Java is not doing anything with it, right? What Java is doing is it's giving all the arguments that I pass it as a list of string. And again, string is just a piece of text. And then in this function, I'm only telling it to take the output, that is again, this thing right here, and printing the line, let's just say hello here, and printing a line hello. That's all I'm doing here. And that is how you run your very first Java program. I hope you enjoyed. It's a bit of an information overload, but yeah, we'll get there. Try to rewatch the video. Try to see like every keyword if you kind of like understand what it does. The thing I want you to take away from this is that classes are things and methods are behaviors of those things. So think about like, okay, we have these actors and we have these actions between them, right? And all these words are just precisely telling Java what it can and can't do, right? And what we can and cannot expect from it. So again, static void just means it doesn't use any specific data from any specific program, and it's not going to give us anything back, right? So yeah, just keep this in mind, and here you can write all your future code. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.